Well, hello everyone, and welcome to another edition of Dynamics Fortnite Fridays.
where we cover everything Dynamics, great and small. How you doing, Bart?
I am doing really well, and you?
Doing well, doing well. So how was your visits out east with your next child going to college, visiting some colleges, huh?
This one wasn't my child. No, I
Okay.
was going out my sister's oldest, so my
Sisters, okay.
niece,
Okay.
my oldest niece on that side of the family anyway,
Okay.
she graduated high school out in New Hampshire. So we're going out
Got it.
to
Visit her.
get her properly celebrated and on her way. So
Okay, got
she's
it, got
now
it.
like off to New Zealand, I think, for some rugby camp that's like a 6-week camp in New Zealand. And then she's off to the University of the South in Swanee, Tennessee for the fall to go to
Ah,
college. So
two worlds apart. So,
two worlds apart for sure.
okay.
But
So
it was great
anyways,
to
it's
see all the
like
family.
that's great. It's like so upcoming, it's Father's Day weekend, which celebrates bad dad jokes.
Well, we have those in a plenty
Okay,
here,
so
right?
what do you got, buddy? So,
So, I did go with a theme, but I chose a different theme.
okay,
A week from Saturday
okay.
is the summer solstice, which,
Yes.
as you are, I'm sure, well aware, the longest day of the year. And while
Yes.
that will be our official longest day of the year, I thought I would do a biblical joke here and talk about in the Bible what
Oh, Jesus,
was
go ahead.
described to be the longest day of the year in the Bible.
Oh, all right. Shoot, shoot.
It was the day God created Adam, because on that
And
day there was no Eve.
that's a truly a bad dad joke.
Isn't that
So
a bad
yeah,
dad
so
joke?
that was
Right,
right
right.
on target. Right, right. So that
All
was
right, so
bad. Okay.
what's in the cards for today?
What's in the cards for today? Bad dad jokes. So I could tell a joke about pizza, but it's a little cheesy.
Cheesy joke. That
Okay.
is for sure.
All right, our content's way better than our jokes today.
Here
So
we go
what do you
again.
got for me, Bart?
So, Power Platform news is up first. We're going to start with the best practices around adoption of the Power Platform. So it's been out for long enough. We finally got a really comprehensive adoption guidance site. So there's the 8 pillars of the adoption, the various things about why it matters, all kinds of great stuff. Just click on the link, explore it for adoption reasons that you should be taking advantage of in your enterprise. Take advantage of this adoption guidance. Next content piece, long-term retention in Dataverse. And this will work for both the Dynamics 365 CE apps and F&O apps to take some subsegment of your data that you don't think needs to be in the hot tier that is the most expensive tier to have that data served up from, but you still want to keep around so that you can report on it, or maybe from a compliance standpoint, you need it. So anyway, we have ways to configure what the policy is for your long-term retention on certain tables or certain aspects of your data that can then be offloaded into a much cheaper storage layer. And when it's in that cheaper storage layer, you can still access it with the advanced find capabilities. If it's the CE apps, you can still get at it from anything that accesses one lake like Fabric. So all of the reporting tools that we bring forward should allow you to access all of that archived data from a reporting standpoint and still be performant and still be able to get to it when you need to report on it kind of in the live UIs, but it won't transact. It becomes read-only once it goes into this long-term storage, which should be fine for what you need to do. And I think if you really had to, that you'd be able to reverse it and bring it back to hot if you really wanted it to. But this is just a really nice description of all of the things that long-term retention does and doesn't do and how it can help you save some costs and some examples and all that good stuff. So take advantage if you've got that scenario where you've got a lot of data in your database that probably doesn't need to be in that hot tier anymore. Power Pages have quite a few Copilot features available in Power Pages. And if you want to be able to manage those features from the admin center now, instead of having to be in the maker portal for the Power Pages site, you can now do that. So all the AI usage, all the analytics around it, some governance controls, all those things are now in the Copilot Hub in the PPAC. So be able to kind of do the various things to analyze what's going on and to govern and kind of take action around what people are doing with AI in Power Pages. So nice update to bring all of that forward. As always, when we transition into kind of the second week of a new month, we get a Power Apps feature update and a Copilot Studio feature update. So that's sort of what I'm going to run through in the next little bit. So in the Power Apps world, nice recap of all of the sessions that were there at Build. If you wanted to catch one of those and you haven't been able to get back to it, this is just a nice summary of all of those related to Power Apps. The Power Apps Planner is now generally available. I think we already knew that. Copilot Studio agents can now be part of your plan. You can create Power Pages sites now from the planner as well. So it's extended to not only do Power Apps, but now the agents and the Power Pages can all be built from that planner. So pretty impressive there. The data modeling capabilities inside of the plan has gotten much richer, bringing your own entities, doing new relationships and stuff within them, just right in the UI, or describing it and letting AI take action, all there. Existing components we just talked about. Multiple solutions can be associated with the same plan if you need to carve that up a little bit in terms of the plan and how you break up the solutions into it. And creating a plan from an existing solution instead of completely net new, also possible. So lots of stuff about the plan. The plan in Power Apps is huge in terms of investment and all the ways that a whole team of agents can help you build better apps, make better data, build better websites, make better agents, all those things. Bringing your own model and fine tuning in the Power Platform is there as well. So that was announced. I think that's been pretty widely understood that you can do things in Copilot Studio in those areas, and being able to do things in Power Apps and Power Automate with all of that is also pretty impressive. You can get at a lot of that right in the prompts area and not have to go all the way into building a complete agent in Copilot Studio as well. Enhanced component properties for the components in Power Apps is now generally available. So lots of good stuff there. And we've made a few updates to kind of the fully managed platform capabilities of Power Platform, especially around apps, and the weekly update email that comes has even more things that are called out with recommended actions and the enhanced email digest capabilities. Copilot Hub, we've talked a little bit about in the PPAC. So lots of things that can be done there. And that was part of what we were just talking about with Power Pages, kind of having their own node with all the things that you can do specifically in that. And then in the making experience of a model-driven app, there is now a new node on that very left-hand rail of that model-driven app maker experience. And when you're in it, you can add multiple agents in there that both give capabilities to it or things that are autonomous that you want to make sure have a UI for supervising things that they get stuck on. So that's where you can kind of create that multi-agent experience in your model-driven app, is right in this app maker in that new left-hand node. So take advantage of that if you need to. A little bit more about that. Some private preview capabilities of generative pages. And I actually just had this land in my tenant this morning, and it's amazing to be able to go in there and just, I mean, kind of the way all the other, describe your app, describe your Power Automate flow, describe whatever you're wanting. This is describe your page of your model-driven app, and it will, in front of you, code it all up so that you can watch it build the code and then show you the UI of it, and you can continue to edit that either directly in the code or with more AI capabilities. So pretty cool for being able to make generative pages, and what it ends up making are custom pages in your model-driven app. So pretty cool stuff. If you weren't paying attention in Build, another huge announcement that I believe I talked about last show too is the ability to deploy code-first apps, so like a native React app, into Power Platform to be the runtime for that code first app so that you can use the connectors and use the governance controls and use the other things for authentication in the Power Platform for a bunch of helpers, but write the code you want for all that stuff. So lots of great stuff. That was the quick run through that summary. Copilot Studio, also a summary of all the things from May that came out. So multi-agent orchestration, we've known about computer use. So being able to let AI just power using a computer that you tell it has access to, kind of the way RPA would do, also out there. Bringing your own model and fine-tuning, we just talked about in the context of Power Apps, and it's certainly there in the Copilot Studio realm. Other updates, MCPs are generally available, and we actually have some MCPs pre-built for all the Dynamics apps and Dataverse in private. Well, I guess it's in public preview in super preview environments, and I can validate that that has shown up in my tenant in the preview environments. Code interpreters knowledge has been significantly enhanced in Copilot Studio to be able to do all kinds of things. And we talked a little bit about that last time. Some new security and governance capabilities. So lots of good stuff. The agent store we've talked about in the last show. The agent toolkit for M365 is also out there. And I think we talked about that last show as well. So this ability to take your things that you've built in Copilot Studio, the full-blown version, and publish them to Copilot Chat so that any user in your organization can use that agent from the Copilot Chat interface as long as they have a billing mechanism to cover that is completely generally available now. And that billing mechanism can be setting up consumption-based billing with a billing plan, or it can be an M365 Copilot license that is kind of all you can consume. So either one will work to be able to use those agents that our Copilot Studio built and now are completely supported. So it's no longer just in preview. Copilot connectors, we have had quite a few updates to a lot of those Copilot connectors, and making anything that used to be called a graph connector, by the way, enhances that semantic index that M365 Copilot relies on, makes that data available in the M365 universe, but also gives a really great, easy to connect to knowledge source inside of Copilot Studio to be able to just show knowledge that you want to scope a little bit better by controlling it in your Copilot Studio experience. We just talked about a lot of those new adoption resources for Power Platform overall. There's also a specific page just for Copilot Studio adoption, so take advantage of all that stuff. And then lastly, we have started building, and this is kind of brand new, so it's just got a few 35 scenarios that have been built to kind of give you ideas of what might have good business value with a lot of instructions on what you would need to do to go make one of those custom agents. So if those scenarios will help out, jump into that scenario library. And then some really cool training. So lots of videos that are now posted, I believe, to YouTube, all kind of commissioned by Microsoft to have a really popular YouTube content creator for Power Apps, a guy named Shane Young, just built all of these in a consortium of videos that are all related to building Copilot Studio agents at scale. So lots of great stuff for Copilot Studio as well. Hopefully the rest of these will go a lot faster because those feature summaries have a lot of cool stuff all landing. I'm not even going to click into this next one, but if you use COE Starter Kit, the June release is out. There is a bug that one of the flows doesn't turn on without making a small adjustment to one of the other flows. I think it's pretty well documented. If you go look at the issues list, and I believe it will be fixed for sure in the July release. They may even put a bug fix release out, but other than that one small little thing that's really easy to fix, everything else seems great in it. I've got it applied and working. Power Pages have two new controls available to the maker. One of those is AI-powered search to do an even better job of searching all of the content that's both on the page and in the Dataverse tables or whatever other data that you have linked in with inline summaries and all kinds of different ways to sort of slice and dice the results that come back from that search. So lots of cool stuff that you can just get kind of with one control you pop on there for searching, and a way for the maker of the site to actually kind of change the layout of how search does its thing. So in the Design Studio, you can kind of configure a lot more things about that search. So good stuff there. There's also an AI-powered summary. So if there's quite a bit of content on a page, you can put this summary control on there that will give an AI-generated summary of whatever else is ending up on that page. So lots of cool stuff there for summarization capabilities for Power Pages. If you are a Databricks organization, Power Platform now has a Databricks connector that Databricks made for use in the Power Platform. And it does quite a few things. So lots of great stuff to be able to just use the data right in the Databricks kind of service in Azure that you can use to come out and do all kinds of things. So, you can read and write apps related to all of the data that's out there. You can do things in workflows that can execute SQL against your data in Power Automate. And you can build agents that use Databricks as a knowledge source. There's all kinds of things you can do using that connector, so take advantage. For Copilot Studio agents, one of the things that is top of mind for many organizations is, how do I make sure that this thing is being used in a secure way? And so there is now in the Maker portal the ability to see what the protection status is with the agents being run, and to be able to look at some summaries and look at the details of what all is going on with threat detection and authentication. What are the policies for things that are being blocked? What's being moderated for content? All kinds of analytics that you get to have across all of the things happening in Copilot Studio in PPAC. So take advantage of that. Like, it's not in PPAC, I'm sorry, that is in more of the Maker portal. So take advantage though. In Copilot Studio, you can see that about the agents that you care about. That hopefully will be showing up with all of that kind of granularity in PPAC as well shortly. Another thing is, if you have a desire to share an agent or reassign their owner, I guess is a better one. It's not sharing, it's reassigning from whoever the current owner of any Copilot Studio agent is to a new owner, that you will be able to do that, generally available in PowerShell as of June 30th. So I thought that was worth throwing out there for all of the folks who are governing what's going on with all the agents in their tenants. And then one last piece that is relevant is, in that Copilot Hub that we've talked about a few times, there is a nice blog here that just talks about all the things that we have done recently to give you a lot more transparency, a lot more visibility, a lot more of what is coming kind of roadmap wise, a lot of what has recently launched, all sorts of great stuff around all the Copilot capabilities in Power Platform, and how to sort of keep up with all of it from one spot with that Copilot Hub in PPAC. So use that and take advantage. So that's all the things with Power Platform. If I switch over now into the customer engagement side, I'm really just going to call out that these exist and let you click into them should you want to dig a little bit more. But if you are using record routing inside of the contact center capabilities for either Dynamics customer service and or just the contact center as a service offering, that you can now get real-time analytics on what's going on with all of that record routing capability, just like you could get real-time analytics on any of the kind of calls that were coming in or chats that were happening or things like that. So better analytics in real time about record routing things. Some really good stuff about how contact centers can use the capabilities of our marketing engine to be able to use proactive sort of things that you've detected from a marketing standpoint that's really good about being event managed and understand when something happens to be able to put the right offer in front of someone, to also now be able to take that same detection of some event that some customer of yours has kind of managed to trigger. And when that event has been detected, push content that will help make sure that the service related things are taken care of, whether that's pushing out a message, whether it's an email or an in-app message or things like that, or whether you actually start doing things like predictive, not quite predictive dialing. We're one step short of predictive dialing, but be able to like surface it in a queue of an outbound agent to say this person ought to be called because of that event that we just detected, or this should be called by a bot and let the bot handle it instead of a person. That there's all those kinds of things that are now possible from an outbound perspective in our contact center capability, related with the marketing capability for kind of detecting and orchestrating how those journeys should happen. So good stuff there. If you're using customer service and you use the email templates, there have been some nice updates in the editor capability that you'll want to pay attention to that give you more capabilities to make those templates rich. And if you're using our contact center capability, we now have both intent-based routing where we can detect the intent of the caller with AI based on a little bit of interaction either through IVR or some other kind of chat interface, and route it to the right person based on what the intent of that contact is, or shift-based routing. If you're using our workforce management solution and you've got shifts defined and for your workforce, that we can do all sorts of routing rules based on shift management capabilities in that. So hopefully that is a great overview of all of the Power Platform and CE things. And I think I should turn her over to Dan to run through all of the rest of our Dynamics content.
Awesome. Tons and tons of good updates. If it's not patently obvious to everybody, let me just point it out, right? As an organization, we're shifting away from just hard-coded business process software, make it more of an AI, make it more of a co-pilot, relying more on Copilot Studio to be able to do things, right? And I'm hearing that a lot from our fast track group, our engineering group, so on and so forth. So I think there's a seismic change in the way that biz apps are being developed. And if you haven't seen that, just listen to all the stuff that Bart had. It's pretty fascinating, right?
There will be a small army of agents to help any user of the platforms that we build shortly.
Exactly. So with that, I think the content that I have is going to be a lot smaller. It's going to be smaller as we go through in perpetuity, I believe. But I still have some content, so it's just a little bit. But first of all, I've talked about this for quite a while. And let me just pull this up here, and that's the deprecation of GP and SL. It's going to happen, right? So if you look at GP, first of all, I've talked about the migration from GP to Business Central, because that's been around for a while. We'll talk a little bit about that in SL. But just a reminder, if you're on GP and there's tens and tens of thousands of different customers still on GP, in September 24th, we announced that it's like we're not doing any more updates. As of December 31st, 2029, we are no longer doing security updates, right? And so nothing's available after April 30th, 2031. So hopefully I'll be long retired before that, but we'll see, right? So you never know. I kind of like my job. Yeah, exactly. So my wife's going to say, no, you just keep on working. You're not good at home. So it just remembers April 1st, 2026 is the final day for new customers, the licensed GP, right? So this is a reminder, if you're out there, if you have a division or anything on GP, let's make sure we get in front of that. So I'm talking to some other customers and they're still on GP. They're kind of behind the 8 ball and kind of looking at evaluating different options on that. They should have gotten this ahead of time, right? Or should have gotten in front of this ahead of time, and do things like read up and the latest features and functionality that we have in Dynamics, like DFF allows you to do, right, and stay ahead of that. Similarly, SL, right? So it's like after 30 years, right? They ended in July 11th, 2023, right? And then all security updates will stop in July 11th. And then basically kaput on January 15th, 2030, right? So you need to get off it. So what are you going to do? There's a migration plan to Business Central. So make sure you read through that, all the steps, right? And it talks a little bit about the benefits. We're not going to go into that, but It has the template to go through. So your initial is like, okay, the data preparation. What have you done? Any customizations? What have you done to make sure that your on-premise is going to go to the cloud? Then we're going to go into a data replication phase, right? And so you copy all that over to the SQL Server, right? Over to SQL database and the Azure Data Factory. And then we're going to the data upgrade to actually get there, and then the completion, update, and validate that as you go through. So, I'm making it sound relatively trivial. It's not, right? Because you have to, like any customizations, any third parties, you have to make sure all those work. You have to look at replacements and things like that. So make sure you get in front of that, folks. If you have any divisions on SL, which used to be Solomon, or GP, which used to be Great Plains, right? So there's some updates in Business Central. So there's some nice updates. I kind of want to go through these. So first of all, on the Copilots and AI, right? So on Copilots and AI, there's a developer tools in Copilot for Business Central, okay, for the Copilot extensions, right? And this is like you can publishers in their AppSource apps now can actually use the language models through Microsoft managed OpenAI, right? But using this is going to be the default and recommended approach, right? So the resources, operational overhead, you can avoid the infrastructure management. Does all the updates, it does the monitoring, all the helps you with the troubleshooting, and all the maintenance of the OpenAI subscriptions and stuff like that. That's all in this core package, right? And so it frees up the resource so you don't have to do this independently alone in Azure yourself, right? And basically that's going to simplify the onboarding, improve reliability, make sure that you're compliant. So that's a big thing, or like security compliance on that, and just make it easier all the way through, because this relatively new technology, and any help that we can get with it is clearly helpful. On eDocuments, there's a few things on eDocuments, right? So first of all, automatic embedded attachments in PEPAL. And so PEPAL is the EU standard for sending electronic documents for businesses, right? And so basically this is automatically embed attachments for that so they can see that. So kind of go through that a little bit. I won't spend any time on that, but if you need that, if you're a Business Central customer, you'll need that. So another thing, I'm not going to click into this, but you can send email documents via service for email and a service simultaneously. So you can actually do both at the same time. The next thing is like you can use B2B Router as a service provider for eDocuments. So B2B Router is actually an ISV add-on, right? And so it'll help you service eDocuments. So there's other ones like Avalara, Pagero, SignUp. Let's see, a few others, Logic, and then it'll do business to business and business to government for you. So this connector for electronic invoicing. And so this allows you to integrate that service provider so you can automate the delivery and receipt of those electronic invoices, right? So it's basically an end-to-end endpoint for an e-document exchange. So again, this is an ISV that's for electronic invoicing on that. And I'll have another one down here too, is Continia, I think is how we pronounce it. Bear with me if I screwed that up, but it's also service provider, not unlike B2B Router on that, right? So just be aware of that. And also you can analyze, there's for financial management, there's new analyze subscription billing in Power BI. So subscription billing, right? It's like, so you have a monthly subscription as you go through this, but this is a nice Power BI report. And it looks at the overview, revenue over year analysis on that. You can do like revenue by salesperson. It's like basically be able to slice and dice all of that to get some really insights into subscriptions, descriptions that you have on that subscription billing that you've been doing for your company. And then there's a bunch here on reporting, right? So the first one is kind of interesting. So you can actually add fields in analysis mode. So in Business Central, you can actually go into the analysis mode within a form and like add columns, which you couldn't do before on that, to actually do the analysis within the system. So it's kind of clever. I think Business Central often comes up with really innovative things for ERP products first that kind of flow out to finance and supply chain, just because they're a smaller, more nimble product on that, and sometimes it's the other way around. A few of these I'm not going to really dig into, but there's been enhancements for Power BI for manufacturing and analytics, and with that, analytics for projects, analytics for purchasing, analytics for sales, for sustainability. First of all, this was the enhanced Excel reports for sustainability, and then I don't know why they put this in this own categorization, but like this is the advanced analytics for sustainability, right? So remember, we have our own sustainability solution right within the Power Platform as well. That's connected into both Business Central and Finance and Supply Chain. So that's the updates within Business Central. This one is, I've kind of talked about this update before, but I wanted to show something that I thought that was kind of interesting. So, there's 3 flavors of project operations. There's project operations for stock production based. There's project operations for light deployments and project operations for non-stock based. So if we click on this, it's basically the same for stock and non-stock based, that we actually had the new time entry calendar view. I talked about that in the last show. But I wanted to point out is something kind of interesting. Is you're going to see a trend here. Is there, this is all stock based and light, but it's been since February of last year that we actually had an update in project operations stock and production base. So look for things to be moving away. If you use the old project management or project accounting management, that's probably going to get rolled into this, and we're going to do the invoicing in the back end. So look for changes as you go through if you use that, and start thinking ahead and planning that, okay, if this starts moving over to a CE base, a Dataverse based productions resource base, as soon as this gets to be stock, we'll be able to manage that stock within there. I think we're going to start seeing a trend that is going to go away from the production based stuff. So just kind of wanted to point that out here.
And it's probably worth mentioning that on the CE side, the thing that used to be called project for the web is becoming planner of one of the different flavors of planner. So just don't be surprised by all the nomenclature changes.
Excellent call out, right? Because it's I think at Microsoft, I think you got to get used to all the name changes every how many years that we change our products.
Right.
So this one I thought was a really good article, right? I'm kind of focusing on today is stay ahead of the curve a little bit, if you haven't noticed that. And this one is a really good one. So this is the learnings from the 2025 Gartner CFO and Finance Executive Conference. And there's some learnings here. And I thought they were really good. There's 3 key takeaways from this. So first one is automate the high impact processes first. We are going to a co-pilot AI driven world, right? But so it's how do we approach it? So first of all, target high impact ones that builds momentum and delivers tangible results quickly, right? So people can actually see that work. Start with the low hanging fruit. We have some stuff out of the box like financial close, accounting reconciliations, which are really boring and hard to do, right? And they take a lot of time, and supplier communications, so you can work with your vendors on that. So those are out of the box, but don't be hindered with everything from out of the box. What it's talking about, right? So you can get some finance pros. They don't have to be professional developers. They actually have to be subject matter experts. Bart and I have been talking about that for a long time. And so they can build custom agents for ERP processes. So you want to start doing that. So you can apply automation and intelligence to critical processes, anything in record to report that is critical to that, right? And do a simple interface to quickly build, we have a simple interface to quickly build these agents, right? And there's a financial insights agent. So that's the step one. That's the first point. I thought that was really good. It's okay, let's make sure we get some quick wins so people buy into that, right? And do some critical processes, the boring, components, right? The ones that are repetitive processes. The next thing I think is really important is establish the center of innovation to upskill your finance team. Bart talks about that a lot when it was center of excellence and how to do that. But now we're talking about business people doing this. So it's first of all, it's you give them that chance to explore and test and scale these things across finance. Make it a hub for experimentation. And it's so they can develop what's the best governance of this, what are the best practices on a low stress, low impact, right? So they have the freedom to test these tools, these workflows, without the pressure of, deliver it fast, want this on time, on budget. It's I want to make this tangible with a quick ROI. Sometimes it's you have to learn and kind of build into that, and this kind of what it's talking about, right? And then the center of innovation, right, should be central to the growth of what they're going to be doing, right? And so basically, what it says is skill your people up, make sure they get the chance to actually develop these skills and put them in the right direction. And then, like, from that shift over to, to developing these. And that's actually going to shift them from being, transactional people, right, to strategic people, people that are actually going to help move the direction of the company. And the last thing is, you can't neglect this, is you got to work with IT, right, to define, what's the relationship within that, right? So while the agents take more of the operational tasks, right, the chief financial officer's got to say, okay, how are we going to define people? What are the roles? What are the responsibilities? And how are we going to have oversight within that? And so it also mentions, like, you think of them as a hybrid workforce, right? So most people think of hybrid workforce as like, I'm working half time in the office. No, these are agentic people that are in electronic cloud, right? So, what's repetitive for the agents, right? For repetitive and analytical tasks, it's like things that take judgment and thinking and thought and strategy. And then about the innovation, we want the people to work with that. So that is. So I thought this was a really well written article to kind of like outline it's like how companies should actually start working with them in the ERP world. So I thought I'd share that with you. And then there's two things, two tech talks that I want to talk about. The first one is the upcoming tech talk for Wave 1 2025. That's for finance and supply chain. So click on that, or actually it's for full dynamics. So click on that. Don't miss that. I want everybody to stay ahead as much as they possibly can. And the other one is a tech talk about account reconciliation agents. I was just talking about that from the Gartner CFO. That's really boring stuff. We do it well within the account reconciliation. So go ahead and click on that link. Make sure you sign up and get that on your calendar, and then view those. So.
And Dan, are those coming up like in the next couple of days, or just in the next couple
within
of
the
weeks
next week? Within the next couple of weeks. Yeah.
Good.
So within the next week. So I wanted to make sure that these are timely, Bart. There's some other ones that have just expired that I thought were pretty good, but we won't dwell on those. But they're the list on there. So with that. As always, there's solution updates. Look and see where you're at. Look in your admin center. Make sure you run those up to date. And then if you want to find out more details, Bart, we always list those at the bottom.
We try. Absolutely.
So that's all I have for this fortnight.
I think that is enough to call it a wrap then. So everyone have a great summer solstice coming up. A happy Father's Day for those of you who are fathers, and we'll see everyone in a fortnight.
I'll see you in 2 weeks, everybody. All right, Bart.